Welcome to the Mother's Memoirs Podcast. I'm Hayley Spooner, and this is the place I invite women to share their deeper, more soulful reflections on the wild ride that is motherhood. Today's guest is a new mum. Her daughter, my niece, just turned 1 last summer. Alongside motherhood, she's a sex and relationship therapist with a new course to help couples reconnect after having a baby. Please welcome Becky Crepsley-Fox.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Hi, Becky. How has your morning been?
Morning. It's been good. Yeah, I've stopped breastfeeding my daughter through the night, so she's been waking me up at 5 a.m. So I've been up for a while already. But I would prefer that. I take that over waking up every hour through the night. So yeah, it's been good. It's been full on already. Just got back from the park and the sun is shining here, so it's a really lovely day.
So, firstly, I just want you to introduce yourself as a mother.
So my daughter's called Aura and she's 16 months old now. So I had her last August, not the August we've just had, but the one before. And she's just so funny and goofy, and she makes life but harder, but also a lot more interesting. And I had a C-section when I gave birth, so I didn't plan a C-section. I planned a home birth. And as is quite common with a lot of people I know, when we aim for home births with the first birth, we end up in the hospital with a C-section. So yeah, I had all of that C-section recovery stuff going on early days. And yeah, I went back to work quite early compared to a lot of my friends. So I went back to work part-time when Aura was just 4 months old. And for me, I found that balance actually like my favorite time. So I wasn't completely just with the baby the whole time, and I wasn't completely at work, but having my mornings with her and my afternoons with clients, I just found like the perfect balance for me.
Fantastic. And tell us, what do you do for a living then, Becky? You've just sort of hinted at it there.
So I'm a psychosexual and relationship psychotherapist, and I'm an EMDR practitioner. So I work a lot with couples and individuals with sexual and relationship difficulties. I'm also a qualified Tantra practitioner. I don't work in the tantric space, but I use learnings and techniques from that I kind of can help my clients do out of the session to help them improve on the intimacy, and sometimes teach workshops that include the tantrics and more somatic parts. I used to be a yoga teacher, as you know, for a very long time. So I find it really important to bring the body and the mind into these intimate and healing practices.
So, really bringing it all together, mind, body, the emotions, as well as the physical experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I saw on your website, so you've got a new course for couples post-baby. And this really caught my eye because I had my daughter, your niece, Georgia, 2 and a bit years ago now. And it's so relatable, that theme of just disconnection with your partner after having your little one.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was so out of the blue, even though we all know that it gets harder to find like time and space for our partner. It still was a surprise to me because I guess my marriage is always something I took for granted. I was very fortunate in that I'd never had to work on it until that point. I'd never had to sort of nurture it and water it. And suddenly with a new baby, no time, no energy, especially with breastfeeding and sleepless nights. Yeah, the connection starts to wane, and so I think the work you're doing is definitely needed. I could have done with it a year ago. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about the course and what it is essentially?
Yeah. So this is what you were just describing about what often happens within relationships after people have had a baby is something that, of course, I experienced in a way myself. It's something that I have heard through multiple clients over the years and have helped them to work on bringing that connection back. And this can be quite recent after the baby. And when I say recent, I mean like 6 months to a year. I don't mean weeks, right? So I think anything between like 6 months or a year down the line, in my head, I see that as like a recent change. To couples coming to me who have 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and their kind of connection, their relationship hasn't quite got back to how they wanted it to be. So it's something that I've worked with a lot and have held in mind. And then one of my a practitioner that I go to see, who gives me body treatments when I was pregnant and afterwards, her name's Becky Hands. She's fantastic. She said to me, "Oh, lots of my clients are talking about how they really need to connect with their partners and they're struggling, and like, you need to create a cause to help people with this." So when she told me this, my baby was only, I think, like 5 months old. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll think about it. And then recently I've started thinking, okay, there's a bit more space. Again, I passed that year mark. Now I can actually start thinking about getting it on track. So essentially what this course is, it's aimed for any parent who feels like they are lacking in intimacy and connection with their partner. I'm kind of focusing it more between 6 months and 2 years, but it can be at any time postpartum. This course includes connection exercises from this tantric practice that I was talking about. So nothing sexual when we're on screen, nothing really intimate, but learning how to touch each other again, finding out, okay, when I stroke your back, do you like it a bit deeper, like a massage, or do you like it more gentle, or do you like it more tickly? Kind of bringing in that intentionality and relearning, okay, what do you like now? Because maybe it's not getting back to the sex life or the intimate life that we had, but maybe it's about carving out something different. We've both changed since we've had a child. So what we want now may be something completely different than what we liked before. So bringing in ways of touch, bringing in other types of touch like eye gazing and sinking into hugs, as well as learning all about how their desire is working now. Again, maybe this has changed, or maybe it's not something that was ever spoken about in their relationship. Finding out, okay, if we were to have sex now, what are the types of sex that we want to have? So I would be helping the couples. It would have like a sharing circle part to it, where people are voicing, struggles that they have. So everyone else can kind of know that it's not just them, because there's so many common threads between all the couples that I talk to. Then there'll be parts where I ask the couples questions and they talk between themselves, learning about each other. And then there's the physical aspect, as well as exercises to do between the weeks we're meeting, journaling prompts, and more physical exercises, which, if they want to, could be more in the sexual nature. So it's really just about finding out, well, how can those people have a fulfilling connection? And for some people that means like wild sex, and for others that means let's just find some time to just sit and just be together. So it will look really different for everyone.
And you touched on earlier the fact that even despite all of your training in mind and body and therapy and couples, you had your daughter Aura and felt, I don't want to put words into your mouth, Becky, but either challenges to your connection with your husband, or maybe just changes to what you wanted that connection to be. And I just love to know a bit more about what that looked like for you, the kind of inside story.
So someone, or maybe multiple people, have asked me before, do I feel more pressure to have a perfect sex life because of my job? When actually, for me, the opposite is true. Because of my job, I feel so relaxed around sex. And what I mean by that is I don't feel like there's a certain amount of sex I need to have. I don't feel like there's a certain amount of intimacy I need to have. So when it came to us having our daughter, our connection changed. But for me, that I didn't find that troubling, because for me, I just expected it, a part and parcel of the shift. Like, of course it's going to change because we've got less time and we're more tired. So that is pretty much it. I'm tired. And I still am. I'm so tired that I'm like, that's the last thing that I've been wanting to experience right now. And my partner's the
Oh.
same. He hasn't been breastfeeding, but he's tired and we're working and we've been having a house renovation. So there's been
Mm.
a lot going on. So you have less time, you have less energy, you have a child who is, in contact with the mother often so much. I'm still breastfeeding. I breastfed a lot, and the last thing that I wanted was to have more physical touch. So every once in a while we'll have a hug and things like that, but a lot of the time it's like, oh, if I have a moment without my baby, which is not often, I just want to kind of just be a bit free and have my own autonomy.
Mm.
So, and when we're breastfeeding, there's so many hormones that are created that make us not want to have sex as well. And this can often be a pain point to do with couples when they don't realize that this is going to be a problem. The partners often don't realize that the mothers are touched out, or that this oxytocin that helps them bond with their baby means that often they don't actually want to have sex with their partner, or they don't also want to be in that connection with their partner. As well as that, it's just really hard to find the time. My baby never napped. Now she started napping at 15 months. She started napping, but she wasn't a napper. So there was no time to have that
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that just giving yourself permission to have a quieter spell where intimacy isn't perhaps what it used to be in the past actually enabled you just to relax and feel comfortable in that. Because I think I remember, if I think back to my sort of mum friends in that first year of becoming mums, there was conversation about, when should we be getting back to normality? And I think some of the pressure was accidentally created by sort of visits by health visitors, or visits to the GP, where they'd start to introduce the conversation about contraception again. A well-meaning conversation about contraception. But what the mothers were hearing was, oh my God, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm just getting my head and heart around this new life, and I should be thinking about that as well. And I just wonder if that's something that you hear other people say. Is that coming up in your courses with other women?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever I see clients, I'll ask them, is it a problem? So let's say they say, oh, we haven't had sex for 2 years. Is it a problem? Because it's only a problem if it's a
Yeah,
problem, right? If they don't want to be having sex, well, then, you know, then there's no problem. This is just something that they're assuming that society is putting on them. And some people that might be enough. Like, oh yeah, if we don't want to be having it, we don't need to be having it, and that's fine. For other people, it is a problem and they do want to be
yeah.
having sex and connecting. But I think, yeah, we get all these messages from society, from media, from friends and family, from health visitors, that we do start feeling like this is something that we need to be doing to have a relationship, to have a successful relationship. And, maybe in the long term, for a lot of people, having sex is an important factor. But
Mm.
if we can add some flexibility, like you're saying, like right now, for example, we're not having sex, but that
Mm.
doesn't mean we're not going to have sex in the future. Or right now, we don't have much time to kiss or to hug or to hold hands, or I don't really want that. But that doesn't mean this is permanent. Relationships go through lots of phases. So I think, yeah, trying to just focus on what do you want in this moment. So often I'll say to my couples, if a partner is initiating and your initial response is no, I don't want that, instead of saying no, I don't want that, you might think, well, what do I want?
Mm.
I don't want sex, but actually, oh God, I'd really love it if we could just have a naked cuddle. Or I don't want a naked cuddle, but do you know what would be really nice if we just have a bath? Or I have a bath and you
Yeah,
stroke my hair. Or I don't
yeah,
want to have a bath and you stroke my hair, but what I would really want is just like a little kiss and then some time on my own. So instead of it being a no, it's I don't want that thing with you, but I want this thing instead.
yeah.
Yeah,
And broadening that suite of things that count as intimacy, because
exactly.
we all fall into our patterns and we do the same things over and over again. And in a way, I guess what I'm hearing from you is that having family for the first time, there's an opportunity there to kind of try some new things out under the umbrella of intimacy. And not all of it is sex. Some of it might be naked cuddle, bath time, and just getting a bit creative.
Yeah. And quite often I use the words like sex and intimacy interchangeably, because to me, sex is so broad. And I know for a lot of people it isn't. So it can be confusing, you know, if I use them differently. But for me, sex is it can be intercourse, it can be oral sex, masturbation, it can be being naked with each other. It's whatever it feels like it is for you two. And I think that's what's really important, because times are changing. So how can you find that connection? And often, and with the husbands or the boyfriends or the male partners, what they want is connection. Sometimes it is intercourse and or sex, but sometimes they want connection. So if their partner says, no, not this, but this, well, they still get that. They still get the time with their partner, instead of like, oh, they don't want me. The baby's more important, which the baby is more important, hopefully. But the baby's more important, and you know, or they don't like me anymore, or you know, and then these resentments start to build. When actually, if they feel, oh, she does want me, and I'm using she's and hers because typically these are the types of people that are having families, but of course it could be women and women, men and men, you know, anything in between. So I'm just speaking, you know, in examples generally, exactly when I'm talking. And because a lot of the clients that I see are who experience these difficulties are men and women, but not always. So I forgot what I was saying. So
I think what I'm hearing is a few things. It's kind of keeping the connection there rather than rejecting, sort of quote unquote, rejecting somebody's advances. And so they don't feel rejected. They feel like there's still that line of communication there. There's still that connection. And perhaps that's enough to kind of keep that feeling of the relationship alive, even though it's not what it used to look like.
Because we are different. We are different new people. So it is going to look different. So when I see couples who say, oh, we want to have the sex we used to have at the beginning of the relationship.
Good luck with that.
I don't even know if that's possible, right? Because we don't have all those hormones going in the brain that happen when we meet a first partner. So for us to expect that to happen 5 years, 2 years, 10 years in, now that is hard, maybe impossible. And what I do hear often from couples, and usually this is the woman in the couple, is they feel like they have the mental load. Now, the mental load of the relationship means having the nappy bag packed, knowing the details for the nursery, getting the calls from the nursery, knowing the food the baby wants, so that when the other partner, the person who doesn't have the mental load, is looking after the child, then often it's the other person's getting questions, or they're not getting it right, and all of this stuff. Now, that can lead to resentment from the person who has the mental load. So for that person to go from mental load, thinking about the baby, to where often the other person wants is sex or intercourse, think about this whole way we have to travel in between to get to that point. Like, it's a huge jump, especially if you're just working as like a team member, but don't have that intimacy that we're talking about. So this like midway point is something that I call simmering. Now, simmering, like hot.
Simmering.
Hot.
Okay. On the hob.
Simmering. Exactly. On the hob. Yeah. So for us to get from like, I don't know, cold, let's say, to hot, we need to go through the simmering space. And simmering can look like anything, depending on what you need, but often flirtation, cheekiness, these bits of intimacy that we're talking about, quality time. You know, if we think about the love languages, we've got quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, and gifts. So those might be part of the simmering. It might be, well, my partner and me haven't had this cheeky flirtation that we used to have, and then they come in and they touch my bum, and it feels really misplaced, because I'm like, like we haven't had any of that.
You've gone from down there straight up to here, and it's
Exactly.
that bridge hasn't been made.
Yeah. So the course, or what I do with clients, is thinking about how can we make this simmering part work for you two. So then if one of you wants to get to the more sexual side, that feels okay. It doesn't feel misplaced. But often if we're down here, it feels really misplaced. It feels like a huge leap.
My mind's just popping now with so many different questions. And one that just keeps coming back to me as you're talking is, it's almost like, well, it's not a question, it's a statement, Becky. I think for a couple to just put a pause on their sex life and kind of feel quite relaxed about that. You know, I know for you, you were relaxed about that because you've had your training and, you know, you occupy this world of sex therapy. So you didn't struggle with that. But for other people to put that pause on it and trust that it will be okay and the relationship will still be okay in the long run, it feels like it takes a huge leap of faith, especially if there's like an imbalance where one partner wants more intimacy than the other or more of a certain kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, is it a leap of faith? How do people trust that it's all going to be okay?
I think continued check-ins is what's really important. So often if I see a couple who maybe their sex life has gone quite negative, or maybe one of them has sexual dysfunction that is like nervous system based. So what I mean by that is, it's fueled by anxiety. So we need to work on like regulating them, getting their nervous system to a calm space so their erection or pelvic floor may kind of either get an erection or the pelvic floor may soften in order for sex to be more possible. This is just an example. In those examples, we may put sex on pause. Now, that is so we can build up, as we were just talking about, all the other types of intimacy so that their nervous system kind of regulate with them, know that it's safe, their partner's safe, before we then bring in the more kind of sexual intercourse part. Now, when we do that, it can feel really scary for one or both of the people. Usually the person who doesn't have the difficulty is the one finding it scary in that moment, because it's like, oh, this thing that I want is now being taken further away from me. So I think the only way around this is to make sure that both people have frequent check-ins. So, okay, in every therapy or once a week, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about, is this working for us, this pause that we're having right now? Is there any type of intimacy that either of us want more of? What can we agree on? Where is this like mutual ground right now? Because if one person is thinking, oh, well, we're not having sex, I don't know how long this is going on for, and we're not talking about it, that does feel really big. But if it's, for this week, we're not having sex, but we're going to talk about it on Thursday. And then for this week, we're not having sex, but we're going to talk about it on Thursday. It feels much more manageable.
Yeah. So back to communication again.
It's really all back to communication.
Yeah. We're going to change gears now. So I want you to pick up your mother and baby book and just flick to a random page. And this is the wild card moment when we just see what comes up and you can speak to your experiences.
Okay.
So you can start flicking and finding the page. So the Mother and Baby book is a journal filled with prompts to help new mothers wrap their head around matrescence, which is a word I only learned since becoming a mum myself, but it's in the same way that adolescence is, the process of becoming a teenager. Matrescence is this very intense process of becoming a mum and all the hormonal and psychological changes that come with that. So this is a diary like no other that's going to kind of help you navigate that journey. So have you flicked, Becky? Have you found a page?
I flicked. Firstly, I went onto a reflections page and I was like, no. Then I flicked again and it came to learning me. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna land on the page that I'm on. So
okay.
it's learning me 46.
Give me a page number.
46.
46. So learning me. Okay. And there's a few little prompts on there. So there's moments that gave me joy, parts of me that felt steady, moments I felt my strength, parts of me that felt new, moments I felt stretched, and what gave me comfort. So there's a lot of different potential topics within the Learning Me page, but I think if I'm correct, this is in 0 to 3 months. Yeah, so this is cast your mind back to like really, really early days with Aura.
Yeah.
And just pick any one of those that jumps out to you.
I would say moments that I felt stretched. Since I had Aura, I've been getting all the viruses that are going around. And in those first 3 months, I had like a sickness bug that lasted, I don't know, for like 3 weeks or something. And not, I was still mobile, but I felt nauseous for like 3 weeks. So I think breastfeeding, recovering from a C-section, and having a virus is definitely a moment that I felt stretched, and that was really hard. Yeah. And I still, tried to go out and do things because my maternity leave was so short because I'm self-employed and I wanted to get back to my clients, that I didn't want to waste it by being unwell. So it was a really challenging time because I wanted to go out and do all the groups and meet all the people and do all the things, but also I was still really recovering from becoming a new mom and the C-section and everything that went with that. So I would say, yeah, that's the moment I felt stretched.
Yeah.
And another prompt in this part is moments I felt my strength. I would say it's both. That is
Okay,
also a moment
interesting.
that I felt my strength because I did all of that and I survived and was still able to connect and love my baby. I think as mothers, we just do, right? We are strong every day. We survive every day.
Any other prompts on that page jumping out at you, Becky?
I guess moments that gave me joy is when, was it about 8 weeks, maybe? When she started smiling. I think that is just the best time when they start smiling and then giggling. And it is just so lovely. It comes at the time where you need it the most. It's like weeks and weeks, and you've been cluster feeding, and then your baby starts to smile, and it is just wonderful.
And Aura hasn't stopped smiling since. One of the happiest, most joyful little babies.
It's true. She is so silly and smiley. It's really, really lovely.
Just want you to tell me a little bit more about who you were before becoming a mum. Like, what were your priorities back then? What made you tick?
So I find this question really hard because I feel like before Aura, I was my job. So, and that was both when I was a yoga teacher. Well, before that, I was a dancer, and that was like my everything. Then I was a yoga teacher, and that was my everything. And then I became a therapist, and that was my everything. So when people ask me questions like this before Aura, my first thought is like sex and relationship therapist. That's who I am. That's what I do. How and and that's how I know things have changed since having Aura, because that is not what my identity is any longer. But before, I don't know, I loved and still do love animals. Although my relationship to animals has also changed because I think there is something that is now more important than the animals that I never thought anything would be more important of.
I lived with Becky briefly. I lived with you briefly for a few months, let's say, in London, and you had 3 cats in, I think it's fair to say, it was a small flat. And you absolutely loved those cats that like they were your own children, Becky.
Absolutely.
So I can vouch for your intense love affair with your pets.
Yeah.
And you've still got your cats, haven't you?
Still got them. One of them is with me right here, Maggie. So, I still love them. But again, it's this tapped out thing. It's like, oh, if you have your baby all day, and I've got 3 cats, so I have to like spread the love 3 times. Or I just finally get Aura to sleep, and then Jeffrey meows, and it's like,
what's up, Jeffrey?
So definitely that shifts as well. You still love them, but it feels different. And I loved traveling, which I do less now, but I loved that. And my identity was it was mainly work. It really was work.
But enjoying work. You
Love
invested
work.
invested in it, and one of the things that I've always admired about you is you're just constantly learning.
Yeah.
Whether it was yoga or therapy now, there's always a sort of new course coming up or new
Mm,
workshop that you're trying. But I
yeah,
guess now balancing that with family life.
exactly. I think because of my ADHD, I have hyper focuses, and I have
Mhm.
made my hyper focuses my careers.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why I choose them. That's why I do them, because I personally I couldn't do something that I found boring. I can't do it. I find it
Ha-
painful.
Yeah, yeah, I can really relate to that, Becky. Um, how do you find managing like living with ADHD and being a mum?
Hmm.
Is it a thing? Is it completely an irrelevant
Mm,
question?
I would say, just making sure this is true.
I've really put you on the spot here, haven't I? We
No.
didn't agree this one in advance.
I think not much has changed.
Okay.
Maybe because Aura is now my hyper focus.
Okay.
So because so I'm either focused on her, or I'm focused on work. My husband may disagree. He may say I'm more like I'm one of these people that like leaves all the doors open. I leave stuff there, and I go and then I think about something else. I do this thing, but I've always done that, right? So I don't know if that's changed. Maybe it has. Maybe I'm doing it more so. Often I do feel like, well, I can only focus on one thing, which is like keeping her alive. So maybe everything else is a bit more chaotic and messy, but it's not something I've noticed myself, I would say, because she is, for me, my hyperfocus now.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
She's another workshop, another course, a lifelong workshop. Okay. Obviously, you're raising a daughter, which is different from raising a son. And with all your experience about relationships, what makes a good relationship, how relationships thrive, I'd just love to know, how are you using this in your approach to raising Aura? Are there
Yeah,
things that you're doing now, even though she's little, very little, to kind of stand her in good stead in the world?
absolutely. Yeah, there are a few things that I do. Um, One is at bedtime, as well as doing stories, me and both my husband's Spanish, so I ask him to do this in Spanish. We speak to Aura about how our days have gone and what emotions have fueled those parts of the day. So I did this
Hmm.
thing and I was stressed, and I did this thing and I felt really happy, so that she really learns how to articulate emotions, hopefully, from a young age, ideally both in English and in Spanish. Um, Now, I don't know if this is something that I had already done, but it's something that I intend to do also, is work on her boundaries. Now, why I say this may be something I've already done is because she already has loads of boundaries. She basically
Hmm.
doesn't let anyone touch her except from me and Alexis and a few other people. And lots of people are like, oh, that's really weird. Or, she's too dependent. People say, oh, she's too dependent on me. No one's judging, but just, family say things like, you need to get her to go to other people. And I'm like, well,
Hmm.
no. If she doesn't want to go to other people, then that's her stating her boundary. And I think it's
Okay.
really important to listen to her boundary. I don't want us going to a party when she's 5 year old and someone enforcing a hug on her that she doesn't want. If we
Yeah.
think about how that translates as she's becoming a teenager or a young adult, is forcing women, girls, to be in situations where they feel like they need to people please. And I
Yeah.
really don't like that. That's why whenever I see my friends' children or with Georgia, I ask, can I have a cuddle? And I won't
Yeah.
cuddle them unless they agree or they nod, or I get some sort of acknowledgement back, because I think it's really, really important to model that from a young age. So she's not only am I listening to her boundaries, but I'm also modeling that in front of her. So with lots of other people. No, I don't really do it with adults, ones who I know well, because I know that we're cuddlers. But with children, I don't know what they want and what they don't want. I think it's really important for me to model that for her.
Yeah, I've seen you do that with my daughter, with Georgia. You'll get down to her level and say, "Hello, Georgia, it's Auntie Becky, and
Mhm.
would you like a cuddle?"
Mhm.
And it's so refreshing, actually, because there are other people in my life who will just kind of assume
Mhm.
that she's ready to have a cuddle and she wants to, and it's actually not about her at all. It's about their need to have a cuddle in that moment.
Yeah.
And it can put you as parents in such an awkward position socially, where you're having to kind of protect your child and say, well, I don't think she wants that right now.
Yes, exactly.
And yet, you know, my own experiences growing up were probably more on the people pleasing side, just a generational thing, perhaps. So in that moment, you sort of split down I feel split down the middle, where there's part of me wanting to please the person wanting the cuddle, and then there's the mum in me going, get off my baby, she doesn't want to be near you, she obviously just wants mummy right now.
Yeah.
So you have to really practice some of this stuff. It doesn't like always come naturally to help your child have the boundaries that she deserves.
Yeah. I think I'm lucky in the fact that I'm not a people pleaser. So for
Yeah,
me,
you're not.
I'm like, no, she doesn't want you to touch her. Stop.
Yeah, but it's a really good thing, and it's, you know, it can be unusual because we're so used to meeting people pleasers. But actually, one of the nice things about you is, you know, it's more authentic, and I always know where I stand with you. There's no people pleasing, and that's a really good thing. So I love that you're doing this for Aura. I think it's great.
Because, you know, that's what I see a lot in my practice when it comes to the sexual trauma side of things, is people not knowing how to advocate for themselves, or ending up in situations where they're coerced essentially into intimacy, where then later they think, oh, you know, I wish I knew how to say no in those moments because I didn't actually really want to have sex with that person.
Yeah. So starting really young so we've had, the first point was, you know, really articulating all the different emotions.
Yeah.
As often as possible to get them familiar with that whole kind of range of feelings, and then just letting them be true to that. Exactly. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm feeling cuddly, I'm not feeling cuddly.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so simple, really, isn't it?
And there's something else that I'm not really doing, although I'm thinking about it, although doing a bit, but she's a bit young, which is, I really want her to learn to have a sense of value in herself. So talking about people pleasing is where we get our value from the external, it's from others, when I really want her to get her value from the internal. So there's different shifts that we can do with language around this. So for example, let's say, and again, she's a bit young for this, but let's say she drew a picture. We might think it's nice, and it is nice to say, I'm really proud of you for doing that. But instead, if we want her to get that validation for herself, we might say, oh, I hope you're really proud with that picture. Does that make you feel proud that you did that? Because then she's learning, oh, actually, that comes from me, rather than I drew this picture for you, right? So just like little changes in language to do with those types of things.
Yeah, this is something I'm starting to become more aware of. Obviously, Georgia's that little bit older than Aura, so the language is coming thick and fast now. And, you know, sometimes she'll repeat something back to me and it will take me by surprise because I will hear myself in that moment. And I don't always like what I hear. And so little things that we're starting to put in practice this end. Well, one of them you taught me, and that's if I'm putting some lipstick on, some blusher, you know, she's really curious. She wants to put it on as well. She wants to watch what I'm doing in the mirror. And, you know, previously I might have said, oh, look at the bags under mummy's eyes. You know, we need to sort this hot mess out. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, like, oh, look at this pretty colour. Wouldn't it be fun to put it on our cheeks? And I'm starting to become a lot more aware of those subtleties around language. And the other one, to take your example of, like, she's painting a picture, is just to ask, was it fun to paint that picture? You know, did you like painting the picture? What colour did you like? Did you like doing it with the brush or the, you know, finger painting? Because I think, if I think of my own school experience, it's sad really, but a lot of it was for external validation. You know, I did not enjoy a number of my subjects. I tried really, really hard at them to get that grade, to get that external validation, to please that teacher. And that's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So just trying to get her to tune into her happiness in things.
What she wants, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
so
obviously
important.
there are going to be times when she has to do things that she doesn't want to do, and that's a different thing. That's a different topic, but
Yeah.
just tuning into the joy.
Yeah. And then I think it's about also the compliments we give them. Now, of course, we both think our daughters are beautiful because they are beautiful. We all
Absolutely.
think our daughters are beautiful.
They are.
They are. And like so much of the time, I want to be like, wow, you're so beautiful. You're so cute. And obviously, she's a bit young, but when she's a toddler, I need to make sure that I'm also saying other things. So she knows, okay, my whole
Mm.
world doesn't come about being cute or being beautiful, but
Yeah.
about, wow, I love how
Also-
hard you worked at that thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really
You're so
cool.
kind. You're so helpful.
Kind. Exactly. So really trying to like diversify the things that we say to them so they don't put this really specific ideology on, well, I have to look a certain way because that's how I am loved. That's when people give me attention. But, it's part of it. And they might like to look fancy when they, put the
Yeah.
colours on their cheeks. But we also want them to feel full in other areas of their life and personality too.
So we're coming to the end now. Thank you so much for chatting today. Before we go, just a couple of little points. Let's start with, where can people find you if they've enjoyed this chat today and they want to read more about what you do?
Yeah. So pretty much my name is like all my advertising. So my website is my name, BeckyCrepsley-Fox.com. My Instagram is my name, Becky Crepsley-Fox. So if you just type my name into Google, I'm going to come up.
And we will put all of that in the show notes as well. Finally, obviously, we're here today for Mother's Memoirs. So in that vein, I need to ask you, what would you most like to be remembered for by Aura?
By Aura. I think just like having her back 100% of the time. I really want to have this relationship with her that she can call me at 4 a.m. drunk, maybe being a bit naughty, and like I'm not, and I'm going to go and pick her up. And she doesn't have to hide that thing from me. That's what I really want. I want her to not have to hide things because there's no judgment there. I can help guide her, but without the judgment, right? So what I really want is for her to know that I have just like had her back the whole way.
A bit like being a therapist.
A bit like that.
Support, non-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really it's a big part of who you are.
I guess so, yeah.
And we'll just finish with, I just would love to know, what's your favourite memory of being a mum so far? It's a really tough question, but just something that you will treasure forever.
I would say being at Shambhala in August. So we took her when she was 1 to Shambhala, and it was just wonderful. And we just like danced and connected, and she really came into her own there. And I just think we had the most amazing like 4 days. And then we all got a sickness bug. So, it's not all sunshine and roses, but it was beautiful. And I'll treasure those memories forever.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Becky.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Mother's Memoirs podcast. If you want to get your hands on the Mother and Baby book by me, Hayley Spooner, visit Amazon or go to mothersmemoirs.com to check out the other work we do. Thank you.